This is a fairly depressing comic for me. This is Quasar 57 and it is not very good. I thought to do this one because it calls back to that Hulk story that introduced Eve Watson. We have her fight a recreation of her original form, but it is one of the final issues of Quasar, so of course it is a problem-fraught offering. Marky Mark G writes it, and I could insist upon the fact that this is yet another masterpiece edited by Michael Rockford. But I didn't want to make him cry again. He never acknowledged any of my responses. Good on him. Eve Watson was badly injured in a previous issue, issue 49, so she has returned to her cocoon to heal herself. And they are also keeping it at Project Cadmus, so we get a pointless cameo from Marky Mark's Justice League characters. These characters should have been left alone. I get writers wanting to write certain characters again, but the way they were brought into this series, it is a very good example of that saying about writers, how they can't get home again. Maybe it's the case that Marky Mark never really did anything with these characters in Quasar. Or maybe it's that he already had said everything to say with them, but their return in this series was not needed. It reeked more of indulgence than creativity. So, someone teleports into Project Cadmus, which is the least well-defended research facility on the planet, and they nick Eve Watson's cocoon with absolutely no challenge. And now we are off to the races. This issue follows on from Starburst, the big flop crossover that is a mighty disaster. And when you plan a crossover story, you always want to have it so that key parts of the resolution are in an issue without any branding on the cover to denote that it is in a pun unintended there. The word Brandon could be a pun based on the plot of Starburst. Some people have asked me to cover Starburst before, and I am not against that idea. But it's one of them things that the notion of looking at on here is very overwhelming. There is so much to say and talk about, and I want to get it just right. And you've got to turn this page sideways to read, which I love doing, but I'm not going to do it here because this is all very integral conclusion to a fucking crossover. The Tribunal shows up to set things right. And Marky Mark is my favourite writer. I haven't said that in a while. And I usually love how he handles the cosmic stuff at Marvel. But in this, he writes the Tribunal very off. Mainly though, I am still in disbelief at how poorly coordinated this crossover was, where you have an unmarked issue like this featuring a significant major part of the story. I don't know what else I can really say about it. I have already made the editor who oversaw this Starburst fiasco cry. The responsible party for the cocoon kidnappery are the scientists who created Eve Watson and also Adam Watson. One of them is called Maris, which just makes me think of Frasier. The scientists, they are wanting to use the healing properties of the cocoon to heal themselves from the ravages of time. And also one of them had a stroke, which they reversed the effects of by using some fluids scraped from the cocoon. They have also made a deal with AIM to hand over Eve Watson once they are done with her. But right now, we do some kind of interesting stuff with her relationship with her makers. And the scientists are actually fleshed out quite a bit here. And they are given unique motivations each. Some of the setup in this issue, Marky Mark was planning to pay off in Star Masters. Star Masters was a team book that launched 2 years after Quasar ended, but it was already cancelled before the first issue even came out. Then Marky Mark died, and the one Star Masters story was finished off elsewhere by another writer ganning off of his notes. But yeah, I mentioned in another video how there was a lot of Marky Mark stuff after he died that was clearly things he was working on that other people finished off and he gets no credit for. Well, there is a story that does indeed continue on with Eve Watson and the scientists. It is in Cosmic Powers Unlimited, the same series that finished off Star Masters. And Marky Mark don't get no credit for either of them. This Starburst stuff, if I ever look at the crossover, I will come back to these scenes when I hit the final part to better discuss what's going on. It's pointless to explain all about the new universe and Skeletron and the Starblasters, who are a completely different team to the Star Masters. I am focusing on the main story here. The main story, but not the mediocre artwork, which is sadly the standard for latter-day Quasar issues. Mediocre is being generous too. Their lab assistant, who we have never seen before, he was actually working for AIM, and he is an Amazo robot, and he has observed how the scientists intended to betray AIM and use Eve Watson to empower themselves somehow. So here is Eve Watson, now in purple, and the Amazo transforms into a replica of Eve Watson's original male form. So we have a fight between the two, and it is an interesting fight, or an interesting idea for a fight, but it is also a very short fight. And Eve Watson doesn't really win. she doesn't do much. She is still too weak and too groggy from a recent rest in her cocoon. So instead, one of the scientists saves her. It does get a bit heavy on making one of the scientists like a loving father. But to be honest, now has really been done with these evil scientists, other than having them be part of the creation of Adam Watson and Eve Watson. So I will admit this is welcome, as it is at least adding to their characters a bit. We leave Eve Watson with a new direction in life, being to care for her fathers and help them recover and become better people. Okay place to leave the character. We didn't see her again in Quasar, which is cancelled 3 issues after this. I didn't think as a spotlight on Eve Watson, it's the worst. I didn't think it is the worst spotlight on her. I was just thinking Quasar is barely in it, but then I remembered he seems barely in it because I have been avoiding the Starburst scenes. Their presence in this issue only makes it worse. If someone chose to read this issue without the crossover, or without any knowledge of the crossover, those bits are completely meaningless. So I cannot recommend this. Despite some okay ideas there, actually, even without the Starburst scenes, I still didn't think I'd be recommending this. It is just passable in places. Nearly every Quasar issue past issue 40 are a bit like this. There's stuff you see in them that you objectively like or want to like, but overall it's just not there. So that's a 7 thumbs up.